Did you know that that is a person right there? His name is Mike. And so is that. That's the person down there. His name is Mario. These are real people. Okay, maybe not real as in I can hug them or grab their tie and shake them around or anything like that. These are actually people that are part of a program that you might have heard of called Second Life. SecondLife.com is a website that came out a few years back now to be just a general place where people could come and live inside of a computer. Now, I have to admit, when Second Life first came out, I was pretty creeped out by it. I thought, okay, this is a weird thing where people just live in here and have businesses and create stuff and have friends and all this kind of stuff. I thought, okay, this is like the Matrix beginning or something like that. And then I started noticing all these different companies jumping on board, investing millions of dollars into this Second Life concept, Cisco being one of those companies. What's the big deal about this? It looks like a video game. It's not. It's a Second Life. It's where you can live inside of a computer. The big deal about it is that it embodies what's happening in our world today in the changing ways that people communicate. I hate to say it, but the communication that we're used to, where I walk up and have a coffee and sit down at a table with somebody, is becoming more and more rare. And people are now communicating more through chat rooms and online communication and voice over IP. This is our changing world that we live in, and voice over IP is becoming a major part of that. So what I'd like to do in this nugget is talk about the changes that are happening in the world today and talk about voice over IP, like why a business would use voice over IP. What advantages do they gain? I'd then like to wrap things up by looking at how businesses move to voice over IP. They've got an existing PBX system. What do they do with that? Do they have to get rid of it, or do they have to, completely strip the whole network? We'll look at all those concepts. I guess continuing for all of you Matrix fans, let's start off by looking at the world at the end of the 20th century. World where mankind was at the peak of their success and all these different networks had abounded. We have networks of voice and video and data all transmitting different kinds of communication about them. Now, the trouble is not that these networks exist. They've existed for quite some time, decades now, to provide us communication, but the problem is that they're separate. Meaning voice is separate from data and data is separate from video. And in order to accomplish the new styles of communication that we have today and that the world is changing to embrace, we're looking for a combination of all these things. A combination that will allow us to integrate applications from the voice world into the data world very easily. Previously, that's been very difficult and very expensive. For example, if you've ever called your bank, they usually have an automated system where it says, press 3 to hear your bank account balance. And you press 3 and it says, your bank account balance is currently $53 or something to that effect, or 40 if it's mine. So you have these automated systems that somehow tie into a database. The way that they're doing that is they buy very expensive boards in their PBX systems and very expensive proprietary communication that allows them to bridge the voice and data world just to allow the voice system to read you an automated balance of your bank account. Well, in the new world, we need a simpler system to allow all of those things to come together. People aren't as apt to pick up the phone anymore and call their bank as they are to log on to a website and see their bank account balance through online banking. So our world is definitely changing. And each area in this environment that we have is its own world. That's what we're looking to change. So Cisco's goal, and the goal of the other competitors in the industry, is to unify that world. If you get into the world of Cisco, expect to hear that word a lot. Unified all the time. That is, I guess you could call it a new corporate strategy word, if you will. When Cisco first got into this world, they had this theme they called AVID, the Architecture for Voice, Video, and Integrated Data. It was AVVID. Well, nobody really said AVID in common conversation, and a lot of people didn't even know what it was. So they ditched AVID and went with this unified communication schemes where voice, video, and data all go across the same network. The bandwidth capabilities on our networks have been increasing for years. I mean, high-speed internet connection. I was just driving home from Central Phoenix, and I saw a billboard up for Cox Communication, and they said, Cox Communication now will give you a 10 megabit per second internet connection for $24.95 a month. I was thinking, $24 a month. I remember when you would talk about a T1 line. You remember the days of, well, I guess forget a T1 line. I remember when we were talking about 14.4 modems, and it was like, oh my word, if I could just upgrade my 2400 or 9600 baud modem to a 14.4, it'd be so fast. I mean, and that was just, crazy speed back then. Now, that kind of speed people would just laugh at, and 10 megabits per second is almost a norm for internet connectivity. So bandwidth capabilities are increasing. We're able to carry all these new kinds of communications. HD video, high definition video, is the thing currently pushing the limit on bandwidth amount, but even that will soon be overcome. Service providers see this opportunity and have long since been combining their networks. You see all the phone providers now offering high-speed internet DSL and cable service. You see all the cable providers now offering cable modems, cable service, and phone service, all through one medium. So all of these networks are coming together, and this allows new opportunities to come to business and homes to get all kinds of different communications through this. Technologies like TiVo would not have been possible without combining these networks together, where you can choose what programs you want to record and watch and pause live TVs. Opportunities like, there's another one, Apple TV, where you can actually rent movies online and watch them on TV. All of that is talking about a unified communications medium. Now, Cisco's huge into this world because it's going to make them a lot of money. And it's not me saying that. It's John Chambers, the CEO. I'm a regular attender of the Cisco Networkers Conference. Every year I go up and hear his keynote speech and go to a bunch of classes and all that kind of stuff. And one year, it was probably about 4 years ago now at a Networkers, he said, he's got a great southern accent, and he said, a lot of people wonder why, I'm not going to try and emulate his southern accent, wonder why Cisco's getting into the voice over IP world. And he said, I'll tell you why. Money. There's a lot of money to be found. And I was sitting there in the audience, I was like, did he just... Is he allowed to say that? It didn't sound very politically correct, but he totally just said, look, when people move into voice over IP, they're buying all new routers, they're buying all new switches that have to support the new capabilities. Cisco makes great routers and makes great switches, but the problem with that is people buy them and they last for years and years and years. No continual revenue stream into Cisco, so this causes people to upgrade their entire network infrastructure. So now let's bring voice over IP specifically into this world. Why would an organization use it? Why would an organization want to unify their network? Well, the trackable cost savings is probably the number one reason. You're going to save money in the long run by using voice over IP. The biggest way that these savings can be realized is through moves, adds, and changes to the phone system, which PBX people call MACs. Now, people in the data world don't usually call them that because that overlaps with some of our terminology. But MACs in the PBX world will cost anywhere between $70 to $200 per move, add, or change. And that includes moving a phone from cubicle to cubicle, adding a new line to the PSTN. All of those are high-cost changes because it requires a specialized PBX person to be either on staff or contracted to do that. Now, that range per move, add, and change comes in because sometimes companies have on-staff PBX people, which that would mean the cost would be a little lower in the short run, but of course employing a full-time person is a little costlier. Or you might have a contract person come in, and that would be a little higher cost in the short run. But with voice over IP, those costs are virtually eliminated since you can move an IP phone from location to location with little to no configuration on the Cisco side. Second cost savings is your reduced wiring, and this is usually realized in new buildings. Normally you have to add wiring for every single set of networks. So the phone network needs its own cable runs, the data network needs its own cable runs. Well, now we can run one single cable to every single cubicle or office that you have in your building. Terminate that at the wall jack. Now Cisco IP phones would plug into that jack, and then you can daisy chain the computer or the PC in the cubicle from the back of the Cisco IP phone. They have built-in switches. Third, you have reduced telecommuter and branch office expenses. To have a telecommuter that has an in-house extension number at their home, and what I mean by that is maybe you've got your headquarters office sitting right here, and you've got a telecommuter either working in another country or maybe even the same city. They just work from home much more effectively. Inside of their home, you can actually install a desk phone that is part of the PBX network over here. Well, to do that, if that were the case, and give this like a 4-digit extension, we'll say 4123 is their extension number, you would have to buy a tie line between these offices, which is a reoccurring monthly expensive cost. Same thing if you're going over to a branch office and you want to have the phones in a branch office tied in, or maybe you have a PBX in a branch office that attaches to those phones and ties in. That would also require a tie line between them, a costly reoccurring monthly cost. Well, with voice over IP, all of these costs go away, because as long as you have an internet connection at the home or branch office, you can actually connect back over to the central site through either, you could do it through the internet connection or through a private line, a VPN. There's many ways to do that, but it is significantly lower cost than the old world. Fourth is IT staff consolidation. You can do more with less. The PBX people become IT people, or the IT people become PBX people managing the phone system. It's all one set of staff where you can consolidate that. Application consolidation comes in, since you can now have applications that you used to have running separately running on the phone network. What I mean by that is maybe you have, I'll just use an easy one here, a hotel. And inside the hotel, you typically have, an application for room service. You have an application, I'm talking like custom-coded applications, or maybe a hotel package that you buy for the TV rentals in the hotel, for hotel check-in and check-out systems, all of that. You can actually consolidate those into the phone system. Cisco actually has a hotel phone package that's available, where you can, from the IP phone, here's your phone. Is my artist rendition. This is a Cisco IP phone. They have a display screen right here and their keypad right there. On the display screen of the phone, you can actually order room service, see the menu through the phone. You can just, without even calling somebody, say, I would like that, and I would like that sent to my room. I could order movies from here. As I'm checking out, I could check out from here, have them email me an invoice. All of that consolidated into one phone. They have phone applications like that for hospitals, where doctors can order prescriptions from the phone. A lot of cool stuff is being consolidated. And then, of course, last but not least, is toll bypass, aka free long distance. Between headquarters and branch office and these telecommuters, all the long distance charges go away, because you're sending all your data over the data network where there is no toll charges. Now, there are also some cost savings that come in that you can't really put a hard number on, but they offer some benefit. For example, using Unity, you can have a single inbox for messages, meaning everybody gets all their messages, fax, voicemail, email, in their email. Or you can actually, using some other voice over IP systems that Cisco offers, you could actually have the voicemail read you an email or send an email to a fax machine. It essentially unifies all these systems of messaging into one type. So what that does is save you the cost of that. And just to give you an example, I just made a phone call to one of my clients. I called them and I said, hey, I'm calling. I left them a message. I said, hey, I'm calling to set up your email account. Just give me a call when you have a sec. And hung up the line. I sent the message. I was like, you know what? He probably is going to be checking his email first, because when you come in and you see that little light on your phone, it's kind of like, I don't want to check that. At least that's what I do. So I immediately after that open my email and send him an email saying, hey, just left you a voicemail. You've done this, right? Or you send multiple messages. All of that time and cost savings goes, is realized, or you get that time back when you have just one inbox. All your messages come into one place. Extension mobility. This is a killer feature, in my opinion, of voice over IP. One of which will be many as new features are released for voice over IP, that allows people to roam around in the network. Essentially, in the network you have all of your phones. Let's say, you've got 3 phones here inside of my network. And what happens is people aren't really assigned phones anymore. You have all these employees that come into the network, and they just sit down at a phone and log into it. It's just like when you log into Windows and you type in your username and password and you get a new desktop, all your settings kind of follow you. Windows calls that a roaming profile. Well, Extension Mobility is roaming profiles for phones, where you can log in and your extension appears, you get all your voicemail from there. When you're done, you log out. Now, I say this saves office space because that allows people, in like a sales environment where they can share cubicles. The morning staff comes in. When they're done, they go home. The night staff comes in. They all share the same cubicles. Nothing fancy needs to be done on the phones, or different cubicles or different phones need to be set up, because people can just log in and use that phone. Now, you also get with Voice over IP internet website integration easily, to where you may have seen this before, where you can go onto a website and for tech support, and I do this all the time, where you log in and it says, for tech support you can call this number or click here to chat with one of our representatives, where you just click on it and it pops up a chat window. Well, with Voice over IP, it's a piece of cake. Well, relatively speaking, to integrate that with voice, to where people can say, click here to talk to engineer. It clicks on it over the speaker and built-in microphone of a laptop or something. The engineer and the customer can have a conversation through the website, all using Voice over IP. That's, again, one of many different applications that are going to be using, Voice over IP style technology. Last but not least, and this is one of the big things for the future, open architecture. You go to a conference, any conference, people are all pulling out laptops, they're all working on their laptop in conference meetings and stuff like that. And you'll see Dells, you'll see HPs, you'll see, what else is out there? IBMs, ThinkPads, all kinds of different laptops out there that are all talking on the same network. Why? How is that possible? Well, it's because all the laptops use TCP/IP. It's the protocol of choice that the world has settled on. Well, in the same way, the world is settling on open architecture protocols that Voice over IP phones use. Now, I can say the future of open architecture is going to be in a protocol known as SIP. Or at least that's the way it looks today. And we'll talk about all these protocols later on, but SIP promises to be the TCP/IP of the voice world. What that means is you can have a Cisco, we'll say call manager or communication manager assistant that's installed on your network, managing, we'll say, Avaya phones. And, tied into we'll say, heaven forbid you do this. You should only buy Cisco, right? But you have a Nortel router or Nortel gateway that gets you off the network to the PSTN. All these are talking together and communicating just like the laptops, because they're all speaking the same protocol, SIP, or they're all using standards compliant protocols. This was an impossibility in the PBX world because it was a proprietary lock. Whatever vendor PBX you buy their brand phones, you buy their trunk cards to the PSTN, you buy, everything was tied with that vendor and you couldn't go outside of them. Well, in the Voice over IP world, all of that goes away with our open architecture standards. Last thing we'll talk about in this nugget is how a company would move their network to Voice over IP, or what I would call old to the new. There's many different strategies to go about this. Some companies, if they're a new company, might come in and just say, well, we're a brand new company, I don't want to waste money on the PBX system, so why don't we just get a Voice over IP system from scratch, which is kind of what I call phase 2 over here, where they just come in and just install that. But for most companies, they've been running on a PBX system for years. To move their entire network to a Voice over IP system is a shock. It's kind of like, well, we've invested potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in this PBX system, depending on the size of the business. Why would I throw that all away to get free long distance? I mean, that seems like just a waste of money. And there's actually, when you figure it out and you throw out costs, put them all in a spreadsheet, for a lot of companies like this, it's not good. the cost savings would not be realized for decades if they were to gut this whole system and move to voice over IP. So those kind of companies might use a two-phased approach. Phase one move to a voice over IP system is to keep all your existing equipment. This is a PBX system. So you keep your PBX, you keep your digital phones over here, and all your offices, you keep them all in place, and you just re-equip your routers or buy new routers that now allow you to connect those PBX systems both to the WAN and the PSTN. I actually really like doing an upgrade like this because it's relatively cheap. It's very low cost to do. All you have to do is get some new routers, get some new interfaces that allow them to connect that PBX system, maybe like a T1 line, and a T1 line. It's actually known as a VWIC card. It stands for Voice and WAN Interface Card. That allows you to take the voice world and maybe connect it out to the PSTN, but you also now have the ability to tie into the IP WAN. What that gives you the capability to do is choose one of two paths anytime you communicate to the offices. If your WAN link is up and has enough bandwidth, then calls between your offices go across the WAN. If the WAN link is down, then you can fail over and use the PSTN as a backup. What that does is give you the benefits, many of the benefits of voice over IP, like the free long distance between offices, like compressing the voice. You can actually compress the voice and get huge bandwidth savings by sending it across the WAN versus the PSTN. You can get rid of the tie lines over the PSTN that used to connect you. That was a huge reoccurring monthly cost. So you get a lot of cost savings benefits for a relatively low cost investment. You're just buying some new routers and connecting your PBXs through the WAN rather than just through the PSTN. That's what I would consider a phase one migration. I like doing it that way because it's not as scary. I've been at companies that do this kind of upgrade where they have this, an existing PBX system. Whoa. This kind of setup. My computer's going berserk. And they want to move to this system over the weekend. It's scary because what we're doing is we're actually, gutting the whole system. It's all night kind of thing, working through 24 hours a day through Saturday. Oh, please work. This phone's not working. Oh, but that's a critical phone. Make it work. No, I'm tired. I just want to go home. You know the pain, right? So it's less scary to do this kind of thing because you can do an upgrade. All else fails, just send it to the PSTN, and it's working just like it always has over the years, and you can try out the voice over IP without fully committing to it. When you're ready to go, this is where you get rid of all the old PBX equipment, sell it all on eBay or whatever, move to a new voice system. This is representing Cisco Unified Communication Manager. Or what we're going to be talking about in this series would be running right here, Communication Manager Express. You're using new phones. It's connecting to switches. Everything end-to-end is voice over IP. Now, it is possible, as the company is moving, to have a hybrid. You could have half the network like this, and half the network like that. For example, I was actually just talking with some guys from Intel. Out here in Arizona, Intel is a big technology company that has a lot of offices, and they said all of our new fabrication plants that they build will be, it's been mandated, will be voice over IP. They're using voice over IP, this phase 2 kind of technology. But they said all of our existing fabrication plants still have PBX systems, and they're going to keep them that way until the maintenance expires on the PBX system. Then they'll move them out. So it is totally possible to have half phase 2 connected through routers to a half phase 1 and convert back and forth between those calls. So this isn't, when you move to voice over IP, I want to make sure I take away the fear. This isn't like a Y2K thing. Like, okay, next year everything's voice over IP. Everything's going that direction. The internet, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about it. PBX systems will be around for years. I actually just read a scary statistic. 2 million people in the United States of America still use rotary phones. Rotary phone. You remember those? Those phones that just spun slowly? They're still out there. And people still use them because, hey, it just works fine. So voice over IP is not going to be one of those things that takes the world by storm and everybody's running it. It's going to be taking the back end. Like those rotary phones will still probably exist 10 years from now in still some select places, and they'll work just fine. It's just their audio, the audio that goes into those rotary phones at the service provider, will be converted to voice over IP. So I hope this gives you a good idea of the what, the why, and the how behind voice over IP. What voice over IP is that changing world of today. We have new technologies like this Second Life where people are living in computers and businesses are marketing in this Second Life virtual reality world. Changing world of communication. Everything's moving across one network, which will eventually be the internet. That's the what. Voice over IP is part of that changing world of today. Why businesses will use it is primarily being marketed as cost savings. But what I'll say for the future is it's going to be opportunities. You're going to see ways with voice over IP to reach markets and reach applications that were never possible before, and ways to integrate communication that were never possible before. You're going to see, and I haven't even gotten into my soapbox of what's coming, you're going to see cell phones that as you walk in companies, kind of go bzzz, and your desk extension appears on your cell phone. You're going to see instant messenger clients that are making calls to normal phone numbers. It's, all communication methods are essentially merging into one. You're going to be watching TV at home, and your boss's little video is going to pop up on the screen saying, "Why aren't you at the office? You're supposed to," it's scary, but all the communication methods are moving into one. So how businesses can move into voice over IP is through that either single move, a forklift upgrade, which works well for a small business or a new company that's using voice over IP. Just put voice over IP end to end from the beginning. Or you can take that phased approach with a phase 1 and a phase 2 to distinctively move pieces of your businesses. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.